Imagine for a second it is a humid Tuesday afternoon in Memphis, Tennessee. The date is August 16th, 1977. The air is heavy, the kind of southern heat that sticks to your skin, but the atmosphere in the city is about to get much heavier. Suddenly the news breaks, and the world stops spinning. Radios everywhere cut their programming, and news anchors struggle to keep their voices steady. The king of rock and roll is dead. It was a moment that defined a generation, a shockwave that felt like the entire foundation of modern music had collapsed. But you have to ask yourselves, was it really the end of an era, or just the beginning of the world's biggest cover-up? Was the man who revolutionized culture really gone, or did he just find the ultimate way to escape the golden cage he helped build? It's a question that has haunted fans for decades, and today we are going to peel back the layers of a mystery far stranger than any fiction. While the public saw the dazzling jumpsuits, the shaking hips, and that legendary sneer that could make an entire stadium swoon, something much darker was brewing behind the majestic gates of Graceland. Elvis Presley was a titan on stage, a force of nature that seemed almost superhuman, but in the shadows of his own mansion, he was slowly crumbling. We love to remember him at his peak, radiant and powerful, but the truth is that the king was living a double life that was becoming impossible to sustain. One version was the immortal icon, and the other was a man desperately struggling to stay afloat in a sea of overwhelming fame, crushing pressure, and personal demons that wouldn't let him sleep. It's wild to think about, right? You see this guy who seemingly has everything: money, fame, the love of millions. Yet he was more isolated than anyone could have ever imagined. He was a prisoner of his own legend. Now let's talk about that last day mystery, because the official story has more holes than a piece of Swiss cheese. We've all heard the report. Ginger Alden finds him on the bathroom floor, the paramedics arrive, there's a frantic ambulance ride to the hospital, and then the announcement of heart failure. But wait just a minute, because when you look at the actual details, things feel a bit off. Why was the scene at the house so chaotic yet strangely controlled? Why did the official cause of death change so quickly before a full investigation could even be completed? There's a lingering feeling that what we were told was just a script, a narrative designed to protect a legacy rather than reveal a painful truth. In those frantic hours following the announcement, the behavior of his inner circle, the famous Memphis Mafia, was nothing short of bizarre. These guys were more than just bodyguards. They were his brothers and the keepers of his existence. Yet, in the wake of the tragedy, there were whispers of missing items, strange phone calls made before the police arrived, and a sense of crisis management that went far beyond mere grief. It makes you wonder, did the most famous man on the planet simply vanish, or was he helped into the afterlife to save what was left of his brand? It's a chilling thought, but when you look at the pressure he was under, it starts to make sense. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We love seeing how far the king's reach still goes today. The public never saw the full extent of his hidden health struggles. To the world, he was just a bit under the weather. But behind those closed doors, it was a different story of physical and mental decline. We're talking about chronic pain, severe sleep issues, and a level of fatigue that would break anyone. He lived in the dark. He'd keep the curtains drawn and the air conditioning blasting until the house was freezing, turning Graceland into a cold fortress. He was hiding from the sun, the fans, and perhaps himself. But even a fortress can't keep out the secrets forever. As we peel back the layers, we must look at the people there until the end. The Memphis Mafia wasn't just a group of friends. They were the architects of his daily life, and they took secrets to their graves. Was the man in the white jumpsuit the same man who was living in the shadows? The rabbit hole goes much deeper than the gates of Memphis, and what we find next is going to change everything. We're talking about a grip so tight it might have been a noose. Is it possible the king never truly left the building? To understand the decline, we have to talk about the man pulling the strings, Colonel Tom Parker. Now, Colonel was just a title, but his grip on Elvis was as real as it gets. Imagine being the biggest star alive, yet feeling like a performing poodle in an expensive circus. Colonel Parker didn't just manage Elvis, he owned him. Rumors suggest he took 50% of everything Elvis made. Can you believe that? Half of your hard-earned legacy going to a man who refused to let you tour overseas because he didn't have a passport. Elvis wanted to sing for his fans in London and Tokyo, but he was trapped in a cycle of Vegas residencies that drained his soul. He was a prisoner of his own success, and the walls were closing in. Then you have the Memphis Mafia, that inner circle of guys always by his side. Were they his best friends, or just the world's most loyal enablers? These men lived off Elvis's payroll and maintained a culture of absolute silence. They saw him stumbling through the halls of Graceland, but no one spoke up. The party had to keep going. That party was fueled by a medicine cabinet that would make a pharmacy look empty. We're talking about a staggering amount of prescription medication. In just the few months before his death, thousands of doses of sedatives and painkillers were prescribed to him by the infamous Dr. Nick. How was he even standing on that stage? He was a walking chemistry experiment. Yet the show always had to go on, but the biggest blow wasn't the drugs. It was the heartbreak. When Priscilla left and the divorce was finalized, something in Elvis just snapped. She was his rock, the one person who saw the man behind the myth. Losing his family pushed him into a spiral of eccentric behaviors that became more extreme by the day. He wasn't just sad, he was lost. He started retreating into himself, finding comfort in the only things he could control, his surroundings and his legendary appetite. Graceland became a black hole. Imagine a mansion where it's midnight at noon. Elvis had the windows covered with tin foil to keep every ray of sunlight out. He lived in darkness and freezing air conditioning, turning his home into a cold tomb. And then there were those midnight snacks. The fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, sometimes topped with bacon, weren't just a quirky craving. They were a symptom of his isolation. He would eat these heavy meals in the middle of the night while the world slept. The paranoia was setting in too. He'd carry multiple firearms just to walk around his own house. He was terrified of something. But what? Was it the fans, the government, or his own shadow? When things reached their breaking point, official reports only made the mystery deeper. Why were there so many conflicting autopsy reports? First heart failure, then drugs, then back to heart failure. And here's the kicker. The full autopsy report was sealed for 50 years. Why? If it was just a tragic accident, why keep the details hidden until 2027? People also noticed something strange during those final tours. Elvis's weight fluctuated so wildly that it led to whispers of a body double being used to fulfill his contracts. Some fans swear the man who died on that bathroom floor wasn't the same man who revolutionized music. Could the king have used a decoy to escape his life? The funeral was massive, but for many it was just the beginning. Not long after the burial, the sightings started popping up everywhere. Have you heard about the man who looked exactly like him at a Kalamazoo Burger King? It sounds crazy, right? But the clues left behind suggest the king might have had one last trick up his sleeve. Get ready, because the evidence of his survival is starting to look real. The funeral was a circus of grief, but as mourners filed past the open casket, whispers circulated that felt more like a spy novel than a tragedy. You've seen the photos, right? Some say the king looked artificial. There are stories from family members who swear the body looked like it was made of wax. Gene Smith mentioned that something about the face just wasn't right. And that casket? It was incredibly heavy, weighing over 900 pounds. People began to wonder if it was designed to hide something or someone. Could it be that the man we were burying was a mannequin meant to buy the real Elvis time to escape the country? When you're dealing with the most famous icon on earth, nothing is truly off the table. Speaking of escaping, there's a detail that keeps the most dedicated Elvis hunters up: the life insurance. He had massive policies, right? But the rumor is that his life insurance was never claimed. If you're his family, or even the greedy Colonel Parker, would you really leave millions of dollars sitting on the table? Even the Memphis Mafia stayed silent on the matter. Filing that claim would be considered fraud if the person isn't actually deceased, and that's a legal risk no one wanted to take. It's a legal loose end that matches the mystery of the 50-year sealed autopsy report. It makes you wonder if the paperwork of his death was just a performance, much like his legendary 1968 comeback special. And what about the air traffic over Memphis that day? Just hours after the news broke, witnesses reported seeing a black helicopter landing right on the grounds of Graceland. There's no official record. Did it carry a tired, broken man away from the crushing weight of fame? This ties perfectly into the legend of John Burroughs. For years, Elvis had used that alias to check into hotels. On the very day he supposedly died, a man named John Burroughs purchased a one-way ticket from Memphis to Buenos Aires. The traveler reportedly looked remarkably like Presley and even shared his signature smirk. Is it just a coincidence, or the most daring getaway in history? Fast forward to today, and the mystery has only grown. If you spend 10 minutes on TikTok or Reddit, you'll find Elvis hunters dissecting the evidence. Have you seen the footage of the man at the Kalamazoo Burger King? People swear it was him. There's also that famous pool house photo from Graceland, where a man looking suspiciously like an older, bearded Elvis is seen relaxing in the background. These theorists aren't just fans. They are detectives convinced that the king chose a quiet retirement over a tragic end. But why would he run? One compelling theory is that Elvis had actually flipped on the mob. Rumors suggest he was helping the FBI investigate a criminal organization known as the Fraternity and had to enter witness protection to save his life. Imagine him living under a new name. Finally free from the drugs. It sounds like a movie script, but with Elvis, the truth was always stranger than fiction. He was a man of many layers, and maybe he decided that his final act should be played out away from the spotlights. Even now, the fans haven't let go. Many still leave a light on for him, hoping he'll return to those iconic gates of Graceland. But if he were alive today, would he even want to be found? He spent his life being poked and prodded by the world. Maybe death was the only way he could finally find some peace. Do you believe the king is still out there? Or is the legend just too big to die? Tell us your theories in the comments below. If you want more deep dives into the conspiracies that keep us all awake, hit that subscribe button. The mystery is never truly over.